Hey, so I want to talk about whether a PhD is going to hurt your career. Sometimes you hear that, and sometimes that's actually true. I think it does hurt your career, and sometimes it doesn't. And you really have to think about what that actually means and what your career is for you. So if you don't know me, I'm Professor Dave Massack. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I wanted to pay the favor for to help you out as much as I possibly can. So a lot of people think about going to graduate school as being the sort of ticket that if you get into graduate school, then everything is going to work out. Or a lot of people sort of have this sort of view that, education or the requirements for education is increasingly getting more severe, or that we have to compete in the market, that we need more and more education. And, partly that's somewhat true, but I also think it's partly not true, because it really depends on what you want to do with your career. So does, a doctorate, getting a doctorate, is that going to hurt your career? So I think in many circumstances, it could actually hurt your career and prevent you from doing things that you want to do. So in a lot of places in industry, industry being like where everybody works outside of academia or outside of, going to school, that you definitely could have a drastic career change. So the problem is with getting a doctorate degree or a PhD degree is the population, the vast majority of the people, they don't know what it actually means and what's involved in it. So you actually have, maybe it is some sort of discount because you actually have a PhD degree in the marketplace, because people just don't understand it. So I always think this is really strange that if you go, so in my field, I'm in business or, innovation or whatnot, people get an MBA, and this is my own experience too. So you get an MBA, and then after that, you go get a PhD, and you learn all sorts of stuff way beyond what an MBA is. But in the marketplace, in industry, you have this sort of penalty because people don't understand what is entitled or what is involved, even though that you have a heck of a lot more education and you understand all the different concepts a heck of a lot more than the MBA themselves, and you're capable enough of sort of teaching that somebody that has an MBA. So somebody that just has a regular MBA would actually do better in the marketplace, the general marketplace, because you're sort of viewed as being able to go in different domains, and you sort of have more optionality. But, the other thing that ends up happening is that you sort of pin yourself into certain areas. You sort of think that certain things are below you, that you can't do those things. And so you might actually not apply to different jobs. And even when you do apply to them, people are going to say, why are you applying to that? I had this sort of job back in, this was my undergrad, and I had an engineering background. I just finished engineering school in chemical engineering, and I was just looking for a summer job because I knew I was going to go to graduate school. And so I just applied everywhere, and I applied to it was washing cars at a dealership, because I was at home. I lived in a small town, and the person actually called me up. The interviewer called me up, brought me in, because they were like, I've never had anybody apply with your skills before. I just wanted to meet you and see what you're about, which was kind of fun. And I don't think that they were serious about actually hiring me. They just wanted to sort of see what was going on. So, that does happen in the marketplace, because they just don't frame you. But I think, a doctorate degree or doing a PhD actually can really help you in a lot of different ways, depending on where you want to go. So if you want to get into a research career and you're really curious about R&D, either in academia, so it's like writing research papers and research grants and stuff like that, it's going to help you out a lot, because you understand theory, you understand data analysis, all those different things. You're just going to really have a really good sense of that, and in a lot of positions in academia, a lot of positions in R&D in industry actually require you to have a PhD because you have that sort of knowledge and understanding. So you can actually look at those, right? So if you want to get onto Wall Street, for example, and do technical analysis on Wall Street, or do sort of computation stuff on Wall Street, you probably need a PhD in computer science to actually get onto Wall Street. Or if you wanted to work on the algorithms for search algorithms for Google, you would probably need a PhD because those algorithms are very mathematically intense, and they're just not easy to understand. So you need to have that sort of background that's there. And the same thing within industry, within academia, to understand what's going on. You definitely need a PhD, and you're just going to be sort of, you're not going to get it until you actually go through that process. So there are requirements to get into certain positions, and the better the PhD, if you come from the sort of the very high status institutions, it's much better for you to get into those careers because they're recognized, right? So that's important. So if you wanted to go and work at Google, getting a Stanford PhD in computer science is going to be really easy for you to actually get into Google, or easier than it is to get a PhD from University of North Canada in Texas. I don't know, some no-name place. And if there is a University of North Canada in Texas, my apologies. I just don't know. So you have to sort of think about those things, right? That if you want to go into certain positions and do certain things, sometimes it's a requirement to get that. And if that's what your goal is, and that you sort of thought about, this is what I want to do, then it makes sense to do that. But in a lot of ways, you probably, for most people, it's not going to be very helpful for you. It's probably going to hold you back in a lot of different ways. And you're going to think about, like, this is very costly. And I just don't want you to go through that, of going through something where it's just going to cost you a lot of money and cost you a lot of time. The money is sort of secondary. It's actually the time and effort and the strain and the stress and all of those things that are more bigger in sort of how you feel about yourself. It's going to be a much bigger thing of actually getting a doctorate degree. And that's the bigger cost than it is sort of financial cost. So I just don't want you to go through those things and have you wanting to go into consulting, or go into, you want to become a manager, you want to be a CFO at GE or IBM or something like that, then you would be better off, much better off, to get an MBA or to get a master's degree and then go work for some of these companies and just spend your time working up the corporate ladder to get there, rather than to do a PhD and think that you're going to sort of leverage it that way. There's a lot of costs involved in doing that, so it would not be worth your time at this moment. Now, maybe in 50 years or 100 years that might change, but at this moment you're far better off just doing that sort of route. But if you want to go into do R&D and you're really interested in research, it makes sense to do a PhD. That seems like a healthy way to do it. So really think about where you want to go and what you want to do in terms of your what you're thinking about. Then it's going to make sense for you. And that's the biggest thing, is really thinking about what you want to do with the rest of your life, and sort of making those long time horizons of a couple of decades out. Where do I want to see my life? What does it actually look like? And then working back from there and seeing what real people, not imaginary people, so actually go and see what real people have done to actually get to the place that they are at. Actually seek them out, look at what they've done, look at their resume, their CVs, whatever it is, and look to see what they've done to get to the place where they're at. And then once you've figured that out, then you sort of follow in their footsteps. So with that, give me a thumbs up, do subscribe to the YouTube channel, take care, and I'm gonna go and enjoy the rest of my beautiful Sunday. It's a beautiful day here in Florida. All right, take care, bye.